Good afternoon, class. Again, this is chapter 17 review, which is over Texas political culture. So we'll find out a little bit of information about what makes up our political culture in the state of Texas. Texas is the second most populous state. It has 26 million people live here. It's probably a little bit more than that from when this book was first published. It's probably closer to 30 million now. It is second in economic growth, and third in job growth. And Texas has a very diverse terrain. You can be in Texas for forever. You could go to different parts of Texas and wonder if you're even still in the state of Texas. What is Texas political culture? The concept of political culture refers to how we view these following four aspects of politics, government, and society. So there are four aspects that we look at when we're talking about politics, government, and society. The first one is the relationship between the government and the people. And we're seeing that play out right now, not just in Texas, but across the country. The rights and responsibilities of the people. What are the obligations of government? And then limits on our governmental authority. So when we think about the things that impact our political culture, there are four aspects that we take a look at. The relationship between government and the people, rights and responsibilities, obligations of the government, and the limits on the government's authority. When you think about Texas, Texas has 7 main areas that we call the Texas terrain. The Texas terrain, you have Big Bend country, Panhandle plains, hill country, prairies and lakes, piney woods, South Texas plains, and the Gulf coastal region. So I'll briefly go through these. The first one is Big Bend. This is considered in the West Texas mountains. The Rio Grande River there divides Texas from Mexico, which is the 5th largest river in the United States. Did you know that the Rio Grande River was the 5th largest river in the United States? The voters in this particular region tend to be more conservative. That's a big question as to why they tend to be conservative. In that particular area. The Panhandle Plains, this is the northern tip of Texas, and the name derives itself from where it appears next to Oklahoma and the Panhandle. And there are 5 large cities there. Their main economy is crops, cotton, and grain, and the voters there tend to be more conservative Republicans. You have hill country. That's part of our rural central part of Texas. Most of when it was first formed, they were immigrants from Germany, Czechoslovakia, and Polish. The water source there is called the Edwards Aquifer. Austin is the liberal base in that particular area, but the surrounding areas are more conservative. So hill country is the rural part of central Texas. Austin sits in this particular area, which tends to be more liberal, but all of the surrounding areas are more conservative. So in your prairie lakes, you have rich soil. In your piney woods, that's just what it says, is located around lots of trees. And South Texas is the southern region, also known as the Rio Grande Valley area. The Texas coastal Gulf region, that's where oil and your chemical related industries are located. That's included in the city of Houston. Texas's medical city is there, and the population there is similar to all of Texas. So Houston embodies what Texas is all in one place. So when we think about political culture, it comes from a person by the name of Daniel Elazar, and he created a system to classify states and what their political culture would be. And so there's 3 things we look at: moralistic, traditionalistic, and individualistic. So there are 3 areas that we look at to classify where a state identifies itself at as it relates to its political culture: moralistic, traditionalistic, and individualistic. So in individualistic, The goal is to focus on the individual without any interference from government. So historically, Texas has been a strong one-party's place. That's changing, which I think is for the good of everyone. It's not so much that we have to have the same opinion, but it would be great if we could agree that we have a similar problem. And then we can work from there and figuring out how to address the problem. I think our main problem now in our politics is that the left and right, center, up, down cannot even agree that there is a problem. And so if you can't even agree that there is a problem, you're not going to be able to agree on coming up with solutions. The moralistic culture is when society is held to a higher importance than the individual. The notion is that government should support the general welfare of the people. And I agree with that. Traditionalistic, oriented toward private life and economic gain. The policies of the party of a given area is more around profit, is more around guarding the power and keeping it from others. So that's your traditionalistic view. So you have individualistic, focuses on the individual without government interference. You have moralistic, society is held to higher importance than the individual, where the government should intervene as necessary. And then traditionalistic, where it's really more about private rights and private equity. Texas generally is made up of two cultures. One is traditionalistic and one is moralistic. So the two cultures that are represented in Texas is moralistic and traditionalistic. So when you think about our political culture, and it broke down the different areas and what tend to be Republican parts of our state, it's the reason why this particular election that increased so mightily in the state of Texas, and why some thought Texas was in play on a national level as well as on some of our Senate races, is because of the diversity that is now across the state. And so where some parts of our state may have traditionally been very, very conservative, it might still be conservative, but there might be some leaning in of moderation there. And so there's a potential there for more voices to be heard and for things to be looked at through a different lens. So that's what makes up our political culture.